So here we are once again. Saints have developed another quarterback disaster on the news of Derek Carr may need shoulder surgery on a mysteriously injured shoulder. We're not sure how it happened. We're not sure how we got here. We'll try to break it down and we'll try to come up with some options to freaking fix it. I'm Tim. Let's talk Saints. So I mean the big question here is how we got here. Only thing I can halfway piece together so far as I'm filming this on Sunday afternoon is what we know isn't much. Um, Kind of the only thing that I really saw early on Friday when this first broke, when Ian Rappaport said, hey, look, shoulder injury, may need surgery, maybe out the year, referring to Derek Carr, our $100 million quarterback, was Underhill. Nick Underhill had a tweet, basically threw it out there saying, hey, the Saints have known about this for a while, which it's just the starting point to where in the hell does any of this that's going on make sense? Because, well, what's a while? I mean, we talking 2 years, 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 minutes, 2 hours, 2 days? How long have the Saints known about this? I'm pretty sure it wasn't a carryover from the 2024 season where this injury first developed, unless the Saints just ignored it, in which case the NFL is going to be really, really pissed about it because the Saints, or the NFL rather, do not like it when teams hide injuries from the gamblers. Let's be honest. Or is this lingering from pre-existing injury? As far as I can tell, the last known shoulder injury he had was in 2023 with the Saints early in the season, an AC joint problem. Didn't really miss any games because of it. But if that's some type of lingering situation from that, again, this is a situation of the Saints' own making, going either 24 or 23. There was an injury there that you knew about, didn't do anything about. In the case of 2024, if it was there, you didn't put it on your injury report. I mean, was this lingering because of the Saints' crappy medical sports science staff that we have numerous examples over the past, I don't know how long, about lingering issues, not being able to get players back healthy and on the field and keep them healthy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't really know how this plays out, where this came from. What is this? This was so out the blue, but yet the Saints knew about it for a while. To me, is just insane. Or did he suffer it this offseason? That has been thrown out there, that it is something possibly non-football related. And when or if did he tell the team before they knew about it? So how far does that a while really, really go back to? And I mean, I think that's important. That's the most important thing to really nail down. So I also read Catherine Terrell put it out. Look, no insurance clause in the contract, whatever. But it's more about that second statement, that a non-football injury or an injury not disclosed to the team could void a contract guarantee. Well, that's what this is all boils down to, because, yeah, we just threw a $30 million guarantee after the league, 3 days after the league opened in mid-March, on top of the $10 million guarantee that he had gotten last year, for a grand total of 40, which brings his total contract paid from the Saints up to $100 million. The other question that kind of popped up, and Nick Underhill addressed it, was in Twitter. Saints Update asked him, did they know about it prior to restructuring the contract? And he's like, Underhill admits, I don't know, but doesn't feel like this was going on at the combine, but he can't say for certain, in all honesty. So his impression I'm getting from this is, hey, he was at the combine. I didn't hear anything, didn't feel like anything was going on along these lines. Quite honestly, I think most of the people covering the Saints was about as blindsided as anyone on Friday when this news broke. But it's important about the combine. Because think back to the end of February at the combine. That's when we learned the what not so good news or whatever you want to call it, the news that it looked like the Saints were going to go ahead pick up that 30 million option on Derek Carr's contract, which everybody knew to be cap compliant meant they were restructuring it instead of just kind of going, okay, that's that. We need to walk away from it because he is not taking a pay cut. This is where the insanity really drives me nuts because if they didn't know about it, then this goes back to what Catherine Terrell's talking about going, no, you need to go after hard to void that contract. You should have already filed whatever it is you needed to file the second you heard this was a possibility or there was a lingering injury. I don't even know the last time the Saints and Derek Carr were together since they played their the last game was played. Before we guaranteed him $30 million, did we have any guarantee inkling that he was going to be healthy and able to play this year? I don't have a clue. Once you decided to do that and you locked him down for the year and paid him that money, we all know what happens. You that restructure, veteran minimum for salary, big signing bonus, prorated out. Now another $30 million added to his already excessive cap number. At a time when it felt like everybody kind of thought both sides were headed for a separation and a divorce after 2025. But if there's some type of lingering injury situation here, what you effectively did is you gave him a raise to go home. If he can't play this year and you had some knowledge this was a possibility. Now, it's been thrown out there, and I think hugely erroneous that I have to address this was like, oh, well, you had to do it anyway to get cap compliant. No, you didn't. Now, you did it because you thought you were going to roll it back and be competitive, try to win a division and make the playoffs. Now, did it make it easier to get cap compliant for the opening of the league in mid-March? Absolutely. Did you have to do it? Well, as it is, you restructured 8 players: Jordan McCoy, Granderson, Matthew, Ruiz, Shepard, Saunders, Werner. You likely overpaid both Juwan Johnson and Chase Young to bring them back. That way you didn't get additional cap hit of their $17 million in dead money on their voided contracts. Just gave them more money, rolled it all up, and again, pushed that down the road. You could have done all of that, still cut Derek Carr post-June, designated post-June 1st. You still had to be cap compliant and account for his whole roughly $50 million cap hit. But right now, you're $27 million under the cap. You made all those moves, including the 2 signings. You still have about between Taysom Hill, Demario Davis, a couple other veterans, 1 or 2 more. You could have shaved out like another $8 million in restructures. You likely can't sign any real high-price free agents. So, bad side, no Justin Reed, Brandon Cooks, however you feel about it, may or may not actually have shown up here. No, don't really know how that would plays out. You may not have even been able to trade for Devin Gottschall, who, by the way, also restructured as soon as he showed up. Look, you could have done it. You probably, like I said, not signing any free agents. You probably sit until June 2nd until that designation hits and you half of the cap hit gets pushed till next year. Then you have your money to go sign your rookies at your draft and possibly add to the free agent pool. And anybody you cut after that point, same thing happens. You take a portion of it in 2025 and the rest in 2026, which means some of the veterans, you could still move on at that point, create a little cap space. The ones that don't have guarantees or restructures, not those guys, the ones you didn't touch. Could be a few more you could move on and create space. Some of them you could have moved on even before all this if you had to massage a couple million or 2 or 3 million somewhere to get under that cap number. So I'm not buying you had to do it. I'm not buying that this was some necessary move to fix problems later or anything like that. This was a move preconceived, I'm pretty sure, because we're going to roll it back and we have the right team. Mickey said it as much. If they stay healthy, we'd have been fine last year. We're going to be healthy this year. We're going to go win a division. We're going to go in the playoffs. But as the new season in mid March started getting closer and closer, everybody's looking around and going, I don't think so, man. I, I, I don't think there's any real long term future with Derek Carr and the organization. So before you even went through all this and you had the ability to create the cap space, maybe not getting a free agency, you knew he was not really a trade option. Nobody was really interested in trading for him. He didn't really have any free agent prospects. It could have all that been because of the shoulder. And God forbid the rest of the league knew about it and we didn't. Extreme fireable offense at that point. But none of this timeline at all is making any sense on how the hell we got here, other than ultimately, no matter which way I keep looking at this, I come to the same conclusion, which is the Saints. And by the Saints, I am talking about Mickey Loomis. The Saints really effed this up big, big time. And now we've got to find a way to fix it. Okay, so how do we go about fixing this? Really, three options that it's just my opinion thrown out there would could be done. I think are the three better options, and I'm gonna start off with though the two that I've seen people discuss and put out there. I don't really like either one of them, so let's run through those real quick because I think the first one is self-explanatory. Um, if he decides to play, go and sign Aaron Rodgers. Nah, I'm like, no, 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 because he's not a long-term solution. I mean, he's a year or two, likely. I don't know how much more he's got if he decides. He's still not certain that he's coming back, but if he is coming back and you want to jump in that those waters to try to sign, it ain't going to be cheap. And that's why I don't think he's not a long-term solution. You have to pay him a lot. It's not going to be around a lot. And we're still going back to how good this team and roster really is. Now, if we were talking Aaron Rodgers of about 4 years ago with our roster of about 4 years ago, freaking A, go ahead and make that happen under this situation because that is a viable roster and quarterback pairing at that point that I think would have been good enough to win a division and make a deep playoff run, but not now. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, best quarterback still available if he decides to play. There's no doubt about that. Still a good one, but you got to keep in mind you're not getting the guy you were getting years ago. Simple fact. And then I can't figure out any way that if he decides to come back, his two options would be us and Pittsburgh. And he looks at both teams and goes, yeah, let me go throw my lot in with New Orleans for the next year or two. Nah, Pittsburgh would make way more sense. And I think the only way you would snatch him away is we were talking about he's not going to sign for cheap. When you getting into a fight with Pittsburgh and signing him, that price just went up when there's two playing instead of one. So can't buy an Aaron Rodgers. The other one and this one, I actually thought long and hard because some people thrown out there will make the move to trade up for number one this year, which would mean likely we take Cam Ward. At this point, because what we're about ready to cover, well, we'll get to that in a second. But as far as this is concerned, my only issue with that is the very, very likelihood. And I think even if Derek Carr played this year, we were still very, very in the likelihood of drafting somewhere in the top 15, probably pretty much around the top 10 where we've drafted the last 2 years, give or take a couple spots. You're going to start a younger quarterback unless things fall together perfectly, and they could. Not saying they won't, not saying there's no chance, but the overall likelihood is Rookie quarterbacks, young quarterbacks, they make young rookie quarterback mistakes, right? That you hope a veteran won't. And that may cost you some issues somewhere along the way. So there's a very likelihood our draft picks in 2026 are going to be really, really high yet again. Like I said, I think you could say probably top 15, probably top 10. And if we have any of the issues we had last year, then you're looking top 5 hands down. So it could be a heavy, heavy price to pay for a guy that now, because your cap's still screwed up, and now to move up to one is going to cost you a lot of draft capital in 2025 and 2026. The very realistic possibility you bring in the top quarterback, let's just say he's 100% can't miss prospect. But what we can also say is we have no ability to bring in free agents or draft young, good football players until both those situations till 2027. So what do we do with the guy for 2 years? You sit him, or do you just roll him out there and hope he survives? Because at that point, you're not going to be able to replace the veterans that you're systematically going to start losing just because of age and wear and tear, and we can't get around that. And you're not going to be able to replace them with rookies that you draft because you're going to have to give up the majority of those draft picks to get to land that guy. If it's a mega deal, you have to walk away. If it's something reasonable, well, hell yeah. But I can't see any way, shape, or form Tennessee's willing to give up that number 1 pick for reasonable for the team trying to trade up. And then cost you an arm and a leg. I think you're better. There's 3 options that I really, really like that I think would be better moves for the Saints. Now, before you start banging on the keyboard down there in the comments, hear me out. Let me get all the way through them. And this is the quick version because I don't think they need massive explanations by any stretch. But option 1, and I'm not ranking them in order. It's just how I happen to write them down as I was thinking of them. But option 1, Rattler and Hayner. Well, you concentrate on rebuilding the roster and fixing the cap problems, both of which you could probably have mostly under control by 2026. And then you look to solve the quarterback issue in the 2026 draft, which would probably be extremely doable. Like I was saying earlier, I think under these conditions, top 10-ish, really, without saying too much. It's almost like this is the route. I've said this before, and people get mad at me when I'm saying this, but sometimes organizations tank without tanking. This would be one of those routes where that happens. And your veteran players are going to hate it, and also it's been pointed out that when teams do this, sometimes you really send the wrong message in the wrong culture, and you don't want to do that anyway. But I'm just saying that is one viable option. But one team that did it and did it correctly, they ate everything. They went young. They fixed their roster. They caught a lot of flack in year 1 and year 2. They made the playoffs, but Denver. And it worked out swimmingly well because that kind of gambled a weight on the quarterback situation to pan out the way they needed it to. Got them Bo Nix. So at least through his rookie season, we don't know how his career is going to play out, but it wasn't a disaster. And now they have a lot of room and a lot of options to build with. And I think that's something Saints fans, Saints organization, everybody needs to keep in mind. The second one, basically Rattler, Hayner, go get a veteran backup. I think Northern threw out in the comments, like Sam Howell, I think is Seattle, he said, they take our 7th to pick him up. It could be a possibility. You probably, with him looking at, I think Gardner Minshew is still around. And the reason why I mentioned him, because he kind of fits the team as I saw do a similar, with a Rattler Hayner, whatever which one, with that Howell or Minshew, somebody along that range, basically a backup in the mix. You draft best available at 9. And what happens is as you're resetting your money and you're drafting and trying to rebuild your roster, especially when you're able to dip back into free agency, one of those things you're looking for in free agency or in a trade is a good veteran quarterback. The Las Vegas approach. Basically what the Raiders have done, they just wound up with Geno Smith, and to boot enough money after fixing all this is they locked him down, and for better or worse, that's who they're going to ride with. That's an option. That one I don't really like either. much like one. Not so much the bad cultural issue, but it feels like you could roll right back into the same situation we were in, chasing, after Drew left, chasing Winston, chasing Carr, trying to figure all this out and trying may not be the best option because we've tried that. It might be time to move on. My opinion, the option I like best is number 3, which is I can't believe I'm saying this because what scares me about drafting rookie quarterbacks in the first round is they're about the highest chance to miss and one of the hardest to recover from when you do miss. However, I think this has finally got us to the point is what the hell do we have to lose? So I don't want to lose draft capital trying to move up and possibly get more. But if Jesus, they love Sanders, if they love Dart, however that works out, and you feel like you have to take that quarterback at 9, take it. If you don't feel like he's there, take best available at 9, but you still have to somewhere down there. All that quarterback work they did, and I guess now we know why they were so diligent on trying to find a rookie quarterback. You got to use him somewhere. You got to draft him somewhere and see. And if it doesn't work out under these options, if you don't get one of the top guys, you're basically looking, once again, probably a very similar outcome. You're going to be drafting earlier in the draft next year in 2026. Just get ready to reset the cannon and do it all over again. The one thing is let's say you get, even if you trade up for, but we kind of discussed that why I don't like it. But even at 9, you could run into a very similar situation, whether it's Sanders or Dart, whether or not you're going to start on week 1, because I guarantee a lot of people are going to want that, right? But what you have to commit to the second you draft it, and big believer in this, if you're drafting first round quarterback, everything you do from that point up is to get him ready to be the starter. The faster you can develop him and get him ready, and the faster he can develop and get himself ready, the better chance you have one of these rookie quarterbacks like we saw last year be able to start week 1. And this isn't a knock on anyone that can't, or they had to be brought along a little slower. This ain't easy, what you're asking them to do. And most of the time, the teams that are drafting quarterbacks like this are in the same boat we in, with rosters full of holes. And what you have to avoid is constantly taking that rookie quarterback that you drafted in the first round and putting him in positions to fail, because that will mess him up quicker than anything. We have so many examples of that, it's not even funny. Sometimes they come back later, like we just mentioned a Geno Smith or a Baker Mayfield or possibly a Sam Darnold lately, and sometimes they don't, and they're done. I don't know if the Saints roster, if they fix their roster enough to avoid whether you roll them out there right away, where week in, week out, game in, game out, series to series, quarter to quarter, he's going to keep finding himself in a bad position, either holes on offense or holes on defense, where they're giving up too many points. We're in scramble catch-up mode, throwing the ball all the time. In this day and age in the NFL, if you don't have a wired tight offensive line, you can forget about that. You're going to get a quarterback killed. I think we've seen versions of that the last couple of years. So I still like that the best at this point, because at this point, I'm tired of playing this game. Okay. The biggest conclusion that I can give you in this whole mess is, if this isn't the biggest wake-up call to Mickey Loomis going, stop with the reboot or the roll it back or whatever, you're rebuilding. You are officially looking for a quarterback, and the only viable solution you have is to draft one pretty much wherever your draft picks are right now, because you cannot afford to give up too much draft capital to go get a guy you may really, really want. And if you look, Sanders or Dart or whoever, if you don't love them at 9, if you got somebody else back there, there's a list of them that they've worked out, going all the way back to McCord. I don't know if any of those are really going to help you anytime soon, but I think it's still a better option than keep burning yourself on these veteran routes and or drafting a rookie quarterback that, like I said, having to wait a couple of years before you can realistically put a team on the field that gives him a chance to win with. Like, it's a disaster. It's a crappy situation because the one thing I can say that if Carr would have played this year, you have the bridge quarterback. If you get lucky and everything works out like you're hoping it will, yeah, they would have had a chance to win a division and and make a playoff run. But look, quite honestly, I don't think anybody ever really thought, other than maybe the Saints organization, that was a realistic thing that could happen. And now you just progressively lowered those odds. And which really insane. You could have made this decision month and a half ago to move on and not compound the problem and make it worse. Then it would have been a problem. But the way this scenario is playing out, unless there's some breaking thing that comes out that changes the whole scope of what we're looking at, all you basically did was guarantee a $30 million failure, is what it sounds like. That this was going to fail, and you stuck with a quarterback that likely isn't going to play for you this year, and you're going to pay him awful lot of money to not play this year. So, Mickey, get off your ass, fix your disaster. And I'm tired of the F-ups. And quite honestly, I have seen the words fireable offense several times over the last couple of days. I heard them from videos, and man, I really can't disagree with that. So, this is going to play out long term, but there it is. So, first time here, please go ahead, give me the thumbs up, give me the subscribe, and drop them in the comments. Let me know what you think. That I have a feeling that the more this comes out, and I'm always suspicious when big news comes out like this on a Friday afternoon, and then so they are allowed to have radio silence for over 48 hours before they have to address any of this, and they will have to on Monday because some volunteer team workouts are happening. One good thing about that is Spencer Rattler, I heard, is already there working and is going to be there. Good for him because he might be starting week 1 as it stands right now. But I'm always suspicious when stuff like that happens. It's almost like they had to kind of take their time and go, you know what? We got to figure out what bill of goods we're going to try to sell to the fans. But in the meantime, they've given us a chance to sit here and speculate and go, none of this makes sense. So I'm interested to see what the official story is going to be. Odds are I'm not going to believe it, but I am interested to hear it. So I'm Tim. Till I see you next time, peace out and who dat.